This story was submitted to the subreddit Let's Not Meet. Whether this story be true or not, best you judge on your own merit. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass time, I used to go for long walks and spend time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had I had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke to my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite, but all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning. I was walking near a police patrol park, quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weekend night, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side of the street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street, on my side, was a silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you can say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was tall and lanky, and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still, until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth is formed into a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, then stopped dead in my tracks. He stopped dancing and was standing with one foot on the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and the sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he was standing, to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street, and was now only slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure, due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I looked away from him, no more than 10 seconds. So it's clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time, staring at him. And he started moving towards me again. He took a giant, exaggerated tiptoed steps, as if though he was a cartoon character, sneaking up on someone. Except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point that I would have ran away, pulled out my pepper spray, or my cell phone, or anything at all. But I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen, as the smiling man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to ask was, "What the fuck do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper of, "What the fuck?" Regardless whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and That only made me more afraid. But he didn't react at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly, started dance-walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go until he was far enough away and out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time, he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side of the road, and back into a better lit road of sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see a stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night. I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that was a very, very scary thing to see. Response/update. Thanks to everyone who took the time to read. The first time, I told this to my roommate, who was, appropriately, mortified. The second time was to a friend who simply joked, "Sounds like he was trying to party with you." Most of my other friends seemed to agree that he was either on drugs or going out of his way to try and mess with me. And to the people comparing him to Slender Man, I should add, he was tall. Normal tall. It probably doesn't help my perspective that I'm short. It was just weird to write it out, since I've only told it to people in person, where I don't have to try to explain his movement. I can simply act it out. And to anyone doubting the truth of this story, I assure you, it happened. I'm not afraid of ghosts, devils, or monsters. It's people that frighten me.